Saturday, bloody Saturday. We usually record on Sunday, bloody Sunday. But tomorrow is a very special day for all those moms out there. That's Mother's Day.
For our wonderful moms.
And you know what? I think we can all do a better job to be better sons. I know I can for sure.
These bitches are so upset.
Right. I think we can all do a better job of that, man. So I know in my experience, dude, you know, I'm not the best, man. I'm not the best at you know, keeping in contact with my mom and telling her what's going on in my life. And like, it makes me, and you know, recently it really, it makes me feel a little sad, man, you know? So I know that if anyone's out there listening and they haven't talked to their mom in a while, or they got something going on with her, reach out, man. Reach out and try to lay aside any of the issues that you guys have and just tell her that you love her. You know, that's all they want to hear. They just want to see you and tell you that they love her. And I'm saying all this stuff for myself because this is something that I'm currently going through with my mom. You know, it's tough, man. It is really tough, but it doesn't need to be, is my point. So if you got a mom out there, take the time to give her a call. Doesn't take long. Tell her you love her. And yeah, man.
Something else they might want to hear.
Dang your butt, good big butt.
Yeah, let your mom know she got a nice badonkadonk. Let's do some introductions. This episode of Last Week Out is brought to you by Sissy Art, like all the episodes of Last Week Out. Why? Because Sissy Art is sick. And it's all about the Sissy gang, y'all. It's the only art I have hanging up in my house. It's the only art David has hanging up in his house. It's the only art Anthony has hanging. That's a lie, but that's okay. But he does have Sissy Art hanging up.
I do have Sissy Art in the house, though.
But he has plenty of art. That's our guest. The only art that they have is Sissy Art as well, but that can also be a lie. But I know that some of the amazing Sissy Art stuff is made at her house, so that's very cool.
It is.
We have man. The Technicolor stepmom herself.
The Technicolor stepmom herself. If you remember,
in the building.
In the Technicolor. Live today on Last Week Out. So that's what we got going on there. If you like that lo-fi banger, that was Devin J. Hancock. You can follow him on Instagram at Devin J. Hancock. He's got some really cool stuff. He just like put out a music video. He's producing, he's mixing, he's mastering, and his stuff, it's pretty rad. You know, he's got a lot of cool stuff on Spotify as well. But again, you can follow him at Devin J. Hancock. You can DM us for any kind of advice or any questions or anything like that. Email us at lastweekout@gmail.com. That's thelastweekout@gmail.com. And follow us on Instagram at lastweekout. Hit the like button. Subscribe. You know, just show some support for your homies out here trying to spread some positivity and to spread some love. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. All the platforms where you can find a podcast, we're on there. So that's out of the way. Okay, adjacent to my left is Anthony Tatum.
Round of applause, David. All right. Okay, thank you.
Golf clap, golf clap, golf clap. Anthony Tatum plays a very integral part of this podcast. Without him, the tripod falls. He is the conversationist. He is the one that keeps things going. And recently I heard someone say, they're like, do you write any of the questions down? And I'm like, no. That's all off the top of Anthony's head because he's a genius.
You know what else is off the top of my head?
His hair. He looks like a chia pet.
I'm feeling nice. I got a nice summer cut.
Yeah, he's got a nice
highly
summer
recommend the summer cut for anybody looking to get all that hair. Wake up, ready to go.
Summer Stash 2019, baby. On the boards, mixing, mastering, doing some very complicated work, as always, is Mr. Big Daddy Slack 420.
Blaze it, dude.
I'm going to get you.
He's going to get you. He's going to get you. For those of you wondering, that's another thing, dude, is without him, there is no podcast. There just isn't, because first off, he gives us the space in his house.
Yeah.
And he's
first
off, and he does all of like the really difficult stuff that I cannot wrap my mind around. You want me to build something for you? Give me some tools and some plans and I'll handle it. You want me to do something on the interweb, put it out there on the line? I can't do that. I don't know how to mix, master, and edit like this guy, so I'm extremely grateful for him. So quick shouts out to David Slack over there in the corner doing his thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. You're the best.
And today we have a very special guest, and I said that about all my guests. Why? Because every guest is very, very special, because what we're doing here is kind of weird and kind of awkward, right? We're being transparent. We're talking about life. We're talking about inspiration, motivation, struggle, loss, whatever the case may be, man. We're talking about it, and we're putting it out there on the table, so hopefully someone out there listening can have an experience, and maybe they can get a little, just a little piece of advice that could possibly propel them to the next level in their life, or get them out of that real dark spot into the next tier, right? So our guest today is a bonus mom, a regular mom, a lawyer, a professional, and looking real good for 50 years old. She told me she was 50 this morning, and my first thought was, what?
No way. You didn't tell us that. You told Chad that?
She
Okay,
said that, but
Not to share.
you weren't listening,
I
bud.
thought we're being transparent here.
You weren't listening here, bud.
Okay.
I did tell you.
You did?
I did.
At the table?
I did.
I don't pay enough attention. And plus, it might have been before we got coffee.
Well, I said lawyer too, and you kind of had like the glazed.
I
over
know.
eyes,
I know.
and you just
Why are we?
stared
I
at
was like,
me.
why are we staring at each other right now? Did I miss something? Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
And so I think that it would be important to kind of tie this into the Mother Day special. Kristin's relation to us as a whole is very minimum to me and Chad. Actually, I think we've met in passing a couple of times, maybe at art shows and things like that for Tara.
Quite possible.
But what she is Tara Galore, who is David Slack's longtime lady and counterpart and better half.
And roommate.
Yeah, they rent helper is this is her stepmother.
Yes.
And that has been for how many years?
Well,
Feels like 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been with her dad Adam for 8 years.
8 years.
But we got married, in 2015. So technically speaking.
Well, so for everyone listening, it's Saturday. Tomorrow is Mother's Day. I don't know if we're dropping this special early or if we're going to still drop on Monday, but happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
And for anyone listening, happy Mother's Day to y'all if you're mothers. And if, like Chad said, if you have mothers and it's Monday and you missed Mother's Day, come up with a good lie. Call right as you're listening to this. Get it sorted out.
Tell me you had a podcast to record.
Yeah.
Just reach out.
Just
reach out.
They
Just
appreciate
say
it.
hi. That's it.
Just
it
a
means
text?
a lot.
Really?
The voice helps. So
The
if you
voice call.
But if you have to do the text, do the text.
So
Do the
don't send an
It
email.
was a preferably not. But Chad said it best. It means so much. It really truly does.
Oh God.
It does.
That's so nice to hear from you. It's going to perpetuate me to call my mom after the episode.
Well, that's what it's about, right?
Perfect. So before that's obviously not all you are. And I think it would be really awesome to kind of talk about who you are, where you came up, what your deal is. And you were telling us a lot. You sound incredibly interesting and incredibly successful in your career. So I think kind of telling us where you were raised. Are you from Arizona?
I am not. I am from the good old Midwest.
Where at?
Outside of Cleveland. It's a little tiny... Boo. I said outside of Cleveland.
Yeah,
It's
Ohio
Sharon
still,
Falls.
though.
It's a tiny little town.
So you got a football family? Browns, Bengals?
Oh, yeah.
You're Browns fans.
Gross.
I was a huge Browns
Oh,
fan.
it's a great year to be a Browns fan right now. I don't know if you know that.
Whoa,
Is
wrong
that-
podcast.
Oh,
Wrong
sorry.
I was gonna
podcast.
say, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
We'll push through that. So,
Because I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about right now, so get to the juice, dude.
You and pretty much
Get to the juice.
everyone else on the planet
Yeah,
could
there's
care
like
less about the Browns.
20
It's really sad.
Just sports in general, bud. Get to the juice.
so how long were you out there?
In Cleveland?
Sure.
Well, I went to undergrad at University of California, Santa Barbara. So
And-
right when I graduated high school, I left.
Boom, you're out of there.
Yeah.
Grew up out in California after that, or how long were you out there?
Until I went back to Ohio for law school.
Okay. So
Tara and I were in Cleveland a year and a half ago. We drove through there. The best thing to do there was to leave.
Okay, be nice.
oh my goodness.
So there's a Michigan-Ohio rivalry
Yes,
that exists
yes.
that's never going away.
So I know LeBron James listened to this podcast. LeBron, I apologize to them in advance. We don't believe that. We understand it's a great place.
he's a Laker now.
Oh yeah. Well, that's good. She moved
He
with
goes
him.
back to Cleveland every once in a while, so
Just to check in.
Right. He's from Cleveland.
That's right, Akron. So you were out in California. So straight from high school, you went into law school. You didn't miss a
you have
beat?
to go through. You have to go through undergraduate degree. So,
What did you
did
get your
that.
undergrad in?
Bachelor of Science in Biopsychology.
Okay.
So I did animal research.
Was that something you were passionate back then?
I loved studying the brain, I should say. And so you can't do that necessarily on humans. So we did it on
Not ethically, huh?
We did it on rats.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Were they
Poor
cute?
rats.
No, in fact, I had a huge fear of rats. Like I was afraid of them. And one of my TAs said, "Okay, we're gonna have to get you over this." And he took me in the lab and made me hold out my arms, and he put like 20 rats all over my
Live rats?
Yeah, yeah.
Like Fear
I
Factor style.
literally
Yeah,
had.
like was it Joe Rogan? Was Joe Rogan your
It was terrible. It was messed up, man. I'm serious. It was.
Fear
it
is not a
was-
factor for you.
Yeah, I have like post-traumatic stress disorder from. Swear to God.
So
Yeah,
I'm kind of like freaking out in my head. So when you guys open up a rat, is dissect?
they're
Yeah,
dead
dissect?
then. They're not alive.
I mean, but they obviously go from the point of being alive and
okay.
on your
Well, I
arms
was
to being
trying
dead.
Skip that.
Who
part,
kills
but
them? Do you kill them? You don't kill them when you cut them open and
I
look at
have
their
no
brains.
comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peter listening.
Thank you.
Chad's
There
a
is-
strong
so-
vegan.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't do that anymore, and I didn't anyway.
It was in the name of science.
Yeah,
though,
rats must
so.
die, so we must live.
All the PETA people in the school let all the rats out of the lab 1 year.
That's what I'm.
And everyone got super
Viva
sick.
la revolution!
They all died within 24
Yeah, they
hours, I'm
pretty
sure,
much did.
too.
Yeah,
So,
it's kinda-
good job, Peter.
It's kind of sad. But
They died in their own environment.
So,
didn't
you,
really expect to go into that.
your undergrad, you're looking at animals. You already knew you were heading to law school, though.
No, I
Okay.
was a pre-med major.
Oh,
and then,
really?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was one avenue to go to medical school, and that's what I wanted to be, a neurosurgeon.
So, med school or law school? Which one of your parents is a doctor or a lawyer?
Neither.
Neither.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a pressured sort of journey that you were on. You're like, I'm going to go to med school or law school. Normally a parent is like, that's what our journey is.
For me,
In this family.
it's internal. It's there are certain people that have personalities that are
Type A's.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but yes, I've been known to be.
A
called.
very type A.
Yeah, much less so now. I've mellowed out so much. Oh my God.
Why do you
Yeah,
think
right.
that is?
Corona.
Just life beating the shit out of you?
Exactly.
Are you serious?
Pretty much exactly what happened. Yeah.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
Well, my wife's
But I can
dad
look at it in a good
has
way
gone
now.
down. Okay.
So
How many? Do you have any siblings?
I do.
What are they doing for careers?
They both stay at home.
Okay, so are you the oldest?
I am.
Yeah, you're older,
I'm that
perfect sibling.
Yeah, I fell from grace at one point, so
Oh, I want to get to that.
Oh God.
Okay, so you go to pre-med, or you're in Santa Clara. Am I correct?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. All
Even
those
better.
Santa Ana, Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So you go to school
Santa Claus.
and you decide that you're Santa Claus. So you decide I'm gonna go to law school,
I did.
and then where do you end up getting into law school?
University of Akron. My dad actually bought out his business partner after a huge falling out, literally like 4 months before I was supposed to go to law school. And he said, "Hey, great job, honey, but you're going to have to pay for that." So I said, "Akron, here I come."
Back to Akron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you finish school? No problems. Straight through. Like
Yeah.
you never took a year off or anything like that.
No.
That's so impressive.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I look at education a lot differently than I used to.
What do
I
you mean?
used to think that was the only way to do it. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what, if you have any hope and prayer and on this earth, then that's what you must do. And I don't think that anymore.
What do you think now?
I look at, especially because between Adam and I, we have 5 kids, and they're all so different, and they've each taught me a lot. And I truly think that everybody's journey is very individual, and And that would have been really hard for me to say a long time ago. Be like, well, yeah, it's individual, but they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Which kids
But now
taught you the most?
Yeah. All of them have taught you a lot.
You know what? I like my brain is just exploding from knowledge from the 5 kids.
Yeah.
All really good, depending on how you.
Yeah, from a good
But I mean,
perspective.
no, it is. It's one really nice thing about being older. You look at things, even horrible things, and they don't look horrible anymore. You just see what came of them.
The harder the trial, the more the growth.
Yes, that is true words.
What was that, David?
True words of.
Is that like a quote you just made up?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were like talking about something that tied into her law stuff. I was so excited. I was
God.
like, what was the hardest the trial? The bigger the payout, am I right, Kristin?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
The more billable hours.
Yeah, that's right, baby. It's showbiz, baby.
I don't do billable hours. Thank God. Thank God I don't do that anymore.
Okay, so you finished law school in Akron.
Yes.
How do you end up in Arizona? Is there like a lot of leaps? Is there a lot going on in between there?
Well, the Cleveland winter
Okay.
was going on,
So
and I
fuck that.
worked for my best friend's father in downtown Cleveland. The first lawsuit I worked on had to do with Cleveland Browns, actually, and I thought, oh, I don't know, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to do this.
Why not?
And
Wait,
so-
so tell me about it. What were you
well,
working
it's
on a lawsuit for
when-
the Cleveland Browns?
It was for the it was for some of the season ticket holders
Yeah.
because they left and became the Baltimore Ravens.
Boo.
But anyway, and then I also did domestic relations work for this individual, and
Was he a Cleveland Brown?
he was a Cleveland Browns fan.
Oh,
but he was a
okay.
lawyer, and our office was right across the street from the stadium. So it was a great experience, except that what you would call divorce work basically is brutal. And I knew immediately, okay, this sucks. This
Yeah.
sucks.
No
And I do
kidding.
not want to do this. I didn't feel like I was helping anybody do anything positive, and I thought, this is not what I worked my ass off for. And it took me 3 hours and 45 minutes to get home one day in January because the roads were so bad. But my boss, whom I love, was seriously brutal, and he's like, nope, we're staying. And all the weather advisories are like, no, close everything down, send people out. Yeah, not him. No, we're staying, we're working. I'm like, okay, great. We'll like argue about that couple's treadmill in the basement that nobody uses, and that's a good use of
And
my
then you'll
time.
sit in fucking 4 hours of traffic
which
on the
is
way
exactly
home.
what happened. I get home, I call my sister, my baby sister, who was in ASU at the time in Phoenix, and she said, you sound miserable. And I said, I am. She goes, why don't you come out here? I said, well, I don't want to take another bar exam. Like I had just taken one 6 months earlier, and I thought, no way. And she said, no, it's great out here. I love it. Why don't you just come live with me? And so I called the next day, and it was literally the last day of late telephone registration for the bar exam in February. So I moved out here. I took the bar literally like 3 weeks later.
And how long
By the
had
grace
it been?
of God, I passed.
Wow. So how long had it been since the last bar that you had taken at that point?
They offer it twice a year.
Okay.
Cross country. So I had taken it in July, and then this one was in February.
Okay, so thank God you didn't space it like 5 years, because I imagine the bar is kind of probably a little bit like, and this, I'm so dumb. Listen to what I'm about to say. I'm a fucking idiot. Is like when you go to driving school and you have to take that test, and it's like very particulars about stuff that maybe you'll never utilize
Or
during
like the
your
food
law.
service industry
It's
thing where
almost
you study.
exactly like that.
You know,
really
bring the
the same
fucking
thing.
bar in.
Really
Bring
the
me
same-
the bar. I'm ready. So you come out
not how
here.
that
But you're
works.
right. You're right though. Like 5 years would have sucked, but at the time they didn't have reciprocity, right? So you had to take the bar no matter how long you had practiced somewhere else. And there was a 77-year-old man that took it at the time I did. And so when we're all, sworn in, everybody stands up and is clapping for this like 77-year-old. I remember at the time thinking, dude, what are you thinking? Like, what?
Do you have to
Why?
retake it every so
Why?
often? Or is it like you take it once and you're in?
Hell no. That's it. I
Once
will
and you're done.
never.
So it's like an
Once
Arizona
and done,
driver's
baby.
license.
Yeah. In fact, I think in Arizona, I can't remember which state, but if you take it 3 times and you don't pass, you can't take it again.
You're done.
You're done. And you just wasted a shit ton of money and time.
Holy shit. But can you take your schooling from that state and go try and take it in another state?
Well, most states have similar, limitations, but now it's a little bit different. I mean, we're talking, like I said, I'm really old. So it was 23 years ago. So it's changed quite a bit.
Can you imagine how pissed you'd be?
Well, yeah, but that experience you gain.
Yeah, the harder the
Who
trial.
are you? Yeah, the harder the trial.
The bigger the payout.
We've come full circle. It's a really short episode, guys.
All right, let's wrap it up. Okay, so you're an attorney,
I am.
and then you are a mother. When did you have your first kid?
At the last NBA championship game.
When Michael Jordan signed
Michael
his shoe.
When Michael Jordan signed a Baby Air Jordan shoe, because he found out that the game was actually, no lie, it's the truth, playing in the delivery room.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, we're not going to be viewing. We recorded the 2 truths and a lie earlier before this. And that was one of them. It was that Michael Jordan signed a baby shoe for which, is it a boy or a girl?
Boy.
A boy. Mm-hmm. Where's that shoe at?
On my office desk.
eBay.
Oh, eBay. Yeah, sorry, MJ.
Just accruing value.
Just in there, just gaining.
It was very cool.
That is very cool.
It was very cool. Yeah,
So-
because he was big stuff. I mean, he is still, obviously, but at the time, it was like the height of Michael Jordan.
What year was that?
95.
Oh, shit. When was Jake born?
Oh, Jake.
Okay, wait.
It doesn't-
98.
Okay, beautiful. Good job. Hey, happy birthday, Jake.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just
Coming
joking.
up, he's gonna be 21.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think 98 is 21 now.
Yes,
We're
it is.
getting older.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Hey, we're all getting older with you. So
98's 21 and 15 will get you 40.
So what I think that would be cool to talk about, and I know we're at 22 minutes, I would like to start to kind of bring in the ethos of the podcast. And basically what we wanted to do here was talk about hardship. And when we were out to breakfast, you had said you had experienced a lot of loss. And then we know even more than just the loss that you had to be around Tara while Tara was going through all of her hardship. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard about Tara. I've heard Tara tell me the same stories 3 times about Tara.
I bet.
And when Tara
She's
tells
a good
those,
storyteller, though.
when Tara tells those stories, I think, who had to deal with you?
And it was this angel.
I will raise my hand. You can't see it, but I'm raising my hand.
So I would love to hear sort of what you think would be a powerful topic for our listeners to hear that you have been through. And then we'll kind of go to break and then kind of accentuate on that stuff. So
Sure.
For you, what do you think the most impactful or powerful thing you can bring to our viewers is?
I think for you guys, I thought about this being the lawyer. I prepare, right? Like, so that's my thing. So I thought,
She has a ton of notes.
I prepare so I don't need notes. But anyway, so I looked last night and I'm thinking, all right, well, Tara had sent me I don't know what it is, like the title, and it said redefining the role as stepmom, and I thought, oh Jesus Christ, it's a rough topic, but honestly, it's not one that's talked about very much, and I think I certainly have, my own experience related to that. I grew up with a stepmother. I lost my mother when I was 11, so I moved in with my father and my stepmother. So I went through that experience, and then I had a lot of other things happen when I was older, and at that point I met Tara's dad. So I was in a very difficult situation personally without bringing in a whole family, and navigating through those waters has been extraordinarily challenging, extraordinarily rewarding, and there's I mean, you could write books on the stuff.
Holy fuck. Well, I think this is the most powerful topic we could talk about. I'm the product of a step parent. And so I think that what we should do is kind of go into that, especially leading into a Mother's Day special, is kind of that ideology and taking on that role and sort of what the challenges have been for you. Does that sound kind of like what you were thinking?
Absolutely.
What a beautiful topic. Kristin Rooney. Okay, so
Technicolor stepmom.
So I know we're a little bit early on the break, but I think it's the best time to do it because I think we'll just dive right back into conversation. If we start now, I'll have to cut you off in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much, and we'll be back after a quick break.
It's the last week out. Run and tell your friends because it's the last week out. We got Chudsy, Ant, and Dave, and it's the last week out.
I'm Chudsy, this is Anthony, and that's David over there, but you don't know that because this isn't video and it's just audio. But adjacent to my left would be Anthony, and adjacent to my right would be David. Yes, go.
We have to thank Tara for filming that amazing intro for us, and we thought it would be so appropriate because we have her lovely stepmother on with us.
Technicolor stepmom
is here, and so we want to talk about being a stepmother and the trials of it. And we thought the best way to start talking about that was to kind of go over the age of the kids, the difference of them, and then when you met your stepchildren, how old they were, and sort of the hardships of integrating the families, because I can't even imagine, how that begins to happen. So maybe you can kind of fill me in on what that looked like when you were integrating families.
Wow. It's a much deeper question than you probably realize.
I do that sometimes on accident.
And every once in a while intentionally. But,
just put them on the spot.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, you'd have to understand kind of where I was at the point where this all began. Mm-hmm. And I was married to my children's father. Okay. We were somewhat separated, but he suffered from bipolar disorder. Yeah. And he came home one weekend and committed suicide in the house.
Holy shit.
With my kids in the house. And it was obviously very, very traumatic. My daughter, who was 8 at the time, I have memories that are just burned in my brain, and one of them is when she was standing across the kitchen. She's just this little girl, and the hospice people were in the room because they had taken him out, but I didn't know if he had passed away or not. Mm-hmm. They were doing CPR and all that business, and but the police were there. It was like Dateline interview. I mean, they were there for 4.5 hours asking me questions. It was terrible. But anyway, during that process, they had, I don't know, people come over or whatnot, and when they finally told me my daughter was across the room all by herself, she was just standing there, and I remember them saying that she just burst out crying and came running to me, and at the same time, my son, who's a very, very sensitive soul, was in another room talking to my life coach at the time, because my life coach happened to be a pastor, and I'm not the world's most religious person on earth, but people talk about God moments, and I haven't had many of those. But that morning, he was coming over I had asked him as my life coach. He was more like a business coach, basically. Yeah. A few weeks prior, I said, my son's asking me all these questions about heaven and death and stuff because he had lost his grandmother and his grandfather that year. My husband's parents both passed away that year, and he was coming over to the house to talk to him. I said, look, I don't know shit about the Bible. I don't know about heaven. I don't know what to tell him. I have no idea. Please come talk to him. And so that morning, I completely forgot he was coming over. I hear this knock on the door, and all the police are there. Everybody's there. I open the door, and
Your pastor, life coach,
standing there at the
shit.
front door. I'm here to talk about heaven. I'm like, oh my God. I just, certain moments just sort of hit you. But I think it's important to understand that's the traumatic day that happened, and the events that happened after that were so significant that I became very protective of my kids.
Yeah.
I also became an idiot and did a bunch of stupid stuff like the hockey team, but that's a whole different podcast. whole different podcast. But anyway, so at that point I was basically a mess, and Adam was also a mess.
So this was early 2000s?
This is before I met Adam. This was, in fact, the first time I was supposed to call Adam was Josh and Laura, who owned the gym that I went to, said, I have to have this funeral service at my house. Like, the floors are a mess. Like, because you just worry about stupid shit when you're in that state, right?
Right.
So they said, oh, well, our friend does flooring. You have to call Adam. Of course, he never called me, so I didn't meet him. and so Tony ended up doing my floors. And then my family got really weird and blamed me, and so we didn't have the funeral service or the memorial service at my house anyway, but my floors got done by Tony. Needless to say, I did not meet Adam at that point. I met him about a year later.
And for those listening, Adam is your current husband.
Adam is my current husband,
Good,
and also Tara's dad.
Tara's dad, okay.
Yes, and the
That's
apple,
like some
apple does
Notebook
not
stuff, yeah.
not fall far from the tree. Let's just forget that. So if you know Tara, you also know Adam, in a lot of ways, a lot of really good ways. Actually.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy. David and I could have conversations at a later date, but anyway,
That'll be on the next. That'll be
Yes.
the after show, the after party.
Yeah. So anyway, I know we're talking about stepmoms and being a parent, but I think people don't talk about that a lot because to me each situation is so very different.
Yeah.
And it's really important to recognize, from my view, it's very important to recognize everybody as an individual and their circumstances are different. When I met Adam, he like I said, he was a mess. He had left his wife after, I had been married 16 years at the time, and he had been married almost 20, I think, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So, we had a whole history. We had a whole life that happened before we met each other.
Yep.
And we had kids that we raised without even knowing the other person. So it was it's not an easy thing.
Right.
It's not an easy thing. And when I met him, my kids had obviously been through some very traumatic stuff, not to mention the fact that my son has ADHD and I mean, not just the kind where you throw a Ritalin at them, but he had like severe ADHD, and we were struggling with that, and he probably has some tendencies towards depression and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Mostly because both his parents do. And then we bring in, Adam, who's a wreck, and his whole life is flipped upside down. He's a mess and has 3 kids of his own, one of whom has Asperger's, one of whom happened to be a heroin addict at the time, and the other one was trying very, very hard to be an adult at a really young age. And obviously their mother was going through stuff also. So it was a big, like, chaotic mess.
So prior to Adam
what it was when we started.
No shit.
It was
So prior to
rough.
Adam, were you open to even dating? How did you even segue into that? Because it seems to me that that's not, in my mind, the perfect world to walk into. So I imagine there's an immense connection that happens between you and Adam.
Yeah.
That kind of perpetuates overcoming all of this hardship that you guys are going through.
It was. I
Yeah.
think we both felt like we were alone in a lot of ways, and we're tired of being alone too.
Fuck yeah.
You ever tell him that he's lucky that you didn't end up with Tony, the flooring guy, instead of Adam, Adam, the flooring guy?
That would have to be a joke because you'd have to see Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, I can do your floors. What do you want?
I have told him many times he's very lucky. He's good looking. Like very, very lucky.
They carry you only so far, huh?
Yeah, well, it's carried him 8 years. Oh.
Okay, so you guys meet.
Yes.
How long before you guys integrate the families? Was that right away?
Well, no, it was not. It was because of their ages at the time, you know, Tara being in the position she was in at the time.
Which is a fucking
out
wreck.
of her fucking mind.
Yeah, she was. And, you know, one of the things that a step-parent gets to do a lot of times that I think everybody looks at them like they're the bad guy, right? Because sometimes you have to be. Because as a parent, as a mother or a father, when your child is in that state where they're just in desperate need of help, but in a way where you don't want to admit it, and there's a huge amount of denial. So the parents who raised this child, this beautiful girl, just don't want to see what's happening. And you know, and my personality is like, I'm the fixer. Like, we got to get in this shit and figure it out and make it better.
Yep.
And everybody's like, well, what's the problem? I'm like, there's a lot of problems. It's a big problem.
You're like, oh, this is a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the time, I realized it the first time. I think Adam had asked when we were dating if I could represent Tara, and she had been in a car accident with basically a bunch of drunk kids that were high, and it was a mess. And I said yes, and they had a very small policy. So anyway, we went to this mediation with all these people around, and this is still in my type A personality, like, you know, I'm in my suit and doing my thing, and
Right.
and she's high as a fucking kite in the mediation. Like, she's sweating and bouncing and everything, and and Adam's with me, he's at the mediation also, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God. And the mediator pulled me out and asked me, you know, is everything okay? And was like, basically like, what's going on? And I told Adam afterwards, I said, we have to do something. She's going to be 18 and you're going to have a really hard time if you do not do something. And so we were really fortunate. I think mostly that she wanted help.
Yeah.
She wanted it. I mean, there were moments she said otherwise, but she really wanted it. So the obviously, you know, 5 years later, we have a great story. But there were some, you know, like the memory that I have of Grace standing across the room. I have memories like that.
Grace
with
is your
Tara.
youngest daughter.
Grace is my youngest daughter. Yeah.
Well, when did you start to have you been able to take on the role as an authoritarian in that family? Or has it just always been a dynamic that you sort of have to constantly work and play the field with?
It was different depending on which child you're talking about, because one, like Haley, for example, was almost an adult at the time that I met her, and she did not live with me. So that's been, you know, I would say a different type of situation. Tara was its own deal, and then Ryan, you know, Ryan had some issues as well, and he came to live with me right away. So even though he was older, he calls me mom. We have a really close bond.
Wow.
So it's different, and that's okay. Every kid is different.
Yeah.
So,
well, what about your kids with Adam?
They love Adam.
Do they?
I am blessed beyond. I had dated one other person before I met Adam after their father passed away, and that did not go well from my kid's perspective in particular.
Weren't a fan.
Jake hated him.
Yeah.
Like hated him. So it was hard. I mean, kids, you can't expect a child to say, "Oh, yay, mommy's dating someone new. This is great."
Right.
I mean, and you know, it doesn't mean that that men and women shouldn't do that, and I wouldn't say otherwise, but I don't think people really recognize truly how hard it is for kids. I mean, I went through that.
Yeah.
I
You were saying that.
I had a stepmother. I lost my mother when I was 11, and my parents had previously divorced. So I had been living as a child with my sister and my mom. So when she died, we moved in with my dad and my stepmother. Yeah, and I was 11, almost 12 at the time. So
is your stepmother still alive?
yes.
So she's going to get a happy Mother's Day tomorrow.
She is.
Okay. And how was your relationship with her?
It was piss poor in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was stubborn. I was a bitch, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, and it really developed how I dealt with all of the new stuff that's happened to me. I think one of the things about having a step parent is that they are not going to be like your parent. Chances are they're going to have a lot of qualities that are completely different than your parent, because that's why your parents got divorced and they're with somebody new, right? Like, so there are clearly going to be at least some aspects of that person that are polar opposite of what you're used to.
Yeah.
And as a kid, that's hard to shift. You're like, oh, well, this is my parent. This is how they raised me. This is what's supposed to happen. And then suddenly you're in this different environment being told completely different things. So
Yeah,
I was really sensitive to that. I think too much so.
Yeah.
Too much so. And so I chose to stay back. I didn't want to step on any toes and whatnot. And I regret that.
Do you look back now being a stepmom and appreciate your stepmother more as a result of that?
More than I could possibly put into words.
Oh my God. Because I think as the older I get, I look at my stepfather. My stepfather, God, I want to say I was 12 when I moved in with him. I might have been a little bit younger than that. And he probably had 2 or 3 decent years with me. And then drugs and alcohol started to become a part of my life, and then trouble. I can remember him picking me up from the police station. And he was just the most hard-nosed man. I mean, he was go to work, do your business, come home, be a family man. He's a rock. He's a lighthouse in a, ocean. And I just began spiraling out and just put so much pressure on my family. And I was never the kid that was like, fuck you, you're not my dad, or anything along those lines. But I think I was trying to grow up and trying to navigate, and he was trying to keep his hands back. But I look back now and I'm like, holy shit.
Do you have kids?
I actually have my first child on the way right now. My first child will be born in September. Yeah, thank you.
You will know even more. You'll have a greater appreciation as that child grows up.
Holy fuck.
You can't, and it's not that, you're just younger or whatever. It's that it's just an experience. And until you have that particular experience, you can't necessarily fully appreciate what it's all about.
So you start to be the stepmom to Tara. She's a mess. Mm-hmm. Haley's grown. Ryan's a kid, and Ryan's taking you in well. And then Tara gets well, and you get to play a part of that too. What has that been like? Is sort of watching Tara evolve and get better? Because I think for our guests, they've heard Tara on the show before, and it's really cool that we get to say things like she was a fucking mess. Because had we lost her, Lord fucking forbid, you look at things like that. And we lose friends in the middle of this mess and this storm. And I've heard many people say, hey, you almost killed a person you'd never met. Like Tara never almost got to be the person that she is today. And it's like we get to laugh at, she was a fucking mess, and we all could say it. But had we lost her and you say that, I don't know. I mean, when we talk to grieving parents, sometimes I haven't got a lot of grieving parents who are completely out of the storm, and we get to say, hey, yeah, your kid was a fucking mess. And
right,
like, that's when they
sure.
died. But they kind of know, watching Tara evolve and come to, has your relationship gotten better? Because I would look back and I'm like, Tara, when you were on drugs and alcohol, your dad got together with the best possible person you could have. She kept you out of jail. Well, you kept her out of jail. You're good support. You cared. You weren't a wreck.
I cared a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because when I first met her, like I said, I was the one that was like, "Oh, we have a problem here. We definitely have a
Sound the fucking
problem.
alarms.
But I remember even then all of Adam's friends, because he had kind of the same circle of friends, which was weird.
Yeah.
That I did, because we had never met, which was odd because Anthem's a small community. But
And because he doesn't return phone calls.
that too.
That too.
That's still an issue. But so it was odd that I didn't know him. But I think I don't know. I completely lost my train of thought.
So Tara, you were saying when you came in, it was hard because you were sounding the sirens.
Yes. So this circle of friends had all these things to say about Tara because they basically grew up with her also. But they were some of my friends like, she's amazing. She's just such a light. She's such a beautiful girl, and beautiful not just on the outside but inside as well. And I thought, are you sure?
This Tara.
But I just
Are you talking about Terrible Tara?
But they did. Everybody that I met she was just this light, and I could just tell she's a special person.
Yeah.
She was a special person, and I thought, well, we got to fix this. And not that I fixed it, she did it. But in the end, now we see her now, and I know that person that everybody was talking about before, and that's awesome.
Do you think that because you're type A?
Yeah.
And you were type A for a long time, and now life is beating the shit. Now this was a part of it, I would assume.
Yes.
It's like your perspective on drug addiction prior. Had you had any experience with that in your family prior to Tara?
Not in my family. My husband. They put him on OxyContin. He had a herniated disc in his neck. They put him on OxyContin. He was addicted to it the last probably year and a half of his life.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And so did Tara push the envelope with you to sort of expanding some of your understanding to what drug addiction was?
I'm sorry. I know you didn't mean that to be funny, but but holy shit, yeah. It was an envelope so much as like an ocean of information.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And so for you nowadays, your patience with that stuff is maybe a little bit higher, do you think? Or your understanding to compassion or anything along those lines?
I've always been a very, very compassionate person. I can honestly say, as I sit here right now, I am one of those people that used to feel like drug addiction was a bad choice. It was a bad choice, and like, just fix it yourself because it's your choice and you fucked up, basically. And you're talking to somebody who never even smoked a cigarette.
You've never smoked a cigarette?
No.
Fucking get the cigarettes out.
No. Actually, well, technically, I did take one hit, I guess you take on a clove cigarette at my grandma's house when I was in 7th grade.
And that was enough.
That sucked.
That doesn't count.
That was horrible.
That doesn't count.
That was horrible.
Why did you avoid? So what
I have smoked pot though, like 3 times.
Okay.
I would just like to put that
3
out
times
there.
today, or
Yeah. You just weren't a fan?
It made me really paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
I have anxiety issues, so I was hoping that it would do the opposite. So that kind of sucked. But I was one of those people. I really believed, I thought I was better than that. I'm like, I did. I mean, and that's really hard to look at you guys and say that out loud. But
we're all drug addicts for the listeners.
But I was.
I will never get you your first hard drug. I'll get you your first hard dick.
Yeah. So you just were never really interested. You were like set on a course.
But I also knew my personality type. I mean, I knew like Coke, for example. Mm-hmm. I think I'd really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawyer snorting Coke in the office. Let's get this cases.
Yeah, I know that I would enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. I don't know what they say.
Like it would be bad. Like if I went down that road, I knew my whole life it would be bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I know this isn't a big deal, but I would drink Diet Coke, caffeine, right? Guess how many cans of Diet Coke I drank per day before I stopped drinking it?
4.
Nope.
7.
Nope.
More?
Yeah.
12.
Nope.
How many fucking cans of Coke can one person drink? You gotta tell us.
Apparently 16.
Holy shit.
Whoa.
You love Diet Coke.
A day, every day.
Coke?
Every day.
You can sponsor our podcast.
Yeah. They used to tell me, like, everybody would send me articles about what it's doing to my brain and all kinds of stuff.
Well,
So-
were they right?
No.
No. Fucking,
No,
you're
but I
fine.
still stopped. So.
Yeah, I put enough Coke
I-
and heroin in my body. Look at me. I'm feeling great.
But
It's like when they say every time you take ecstasy, it's like taking an ice cream scoop out of your brain. If that was the case, I'd have no brain.
Okay, so you knew. You were just like, no.
Yeah, I
I'm-
knew.
Okay.
And because I made the choice not to do that, I thought, well, why can't other people? Because I think I'm that person. I think I'm the person that would be seriously in trouble if I ever did.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, there's, and that perspective has completely changed.
What a beautiful. I mean, it's terrible when the hardships have to shift it and change it, but in the next breath, I think that goes to David's. Is the bigger the trial, the bigger the payout, right? Was that the quote,
Yeah, I think
David?
I'd really like that.
So,
Oh my God.
That's
So
a great drop. Hold on.
how-
Let's listen to that real quick
Oh
again.
my God. I think I'd really like that.
yeah, that'll be a good one.
So
That's a keeper
seductive.
forever.
I don't even remember saying that.
That's what we're just in the groove. So, today,
Yes.
how's everything going?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I still owe the IRS a shit ton of money. But
Why?
Other than that, I had my own issues with certain addictions, not drug related.
Oh,
and
I was going to say, was it crack?
No.
You just said, I didn't do any hard drugs. I did smoke a little crack, though,
No.
every now and then.
So I basically let my life fall apart, much like probably a lot of drug addicts do.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Please share. We have some more time.
Are you sure? 'Cause
Yes.
it's like I got okay.
We'll just run through it.
Okay.
Okay, what was it? What was the problem?
Gambling.
Gambling.
Yeah.
We fucking...
Yeah.
I could see it. Not on you, but I could see that gambling... I have friends, and gambling
really
is
like
such...
I really did. I really liked it.
So gambling is... Actually, this is, and I don't know, David maybe can fact check, but I hear that gambling has the highest suicide rate in their addiction
I believe
community.
I made several calls to the suicide hotline on the way home from the casino in my several years.
Holy fuck! When did
Yeah.
that pick up? When did you start gambling?
After I lost a shit ton of money in the hockey team.
And that was probably not long after your husband passed.
Yes.
So
Correct.
you started gambling. What do you play?
Blackjack.
Blackjack, baby.
Yeah, blackjack. Baby.
Big wins, big losses.
Yeah, it's fast.
Okay. And so you were just spending money at the casinos.
Yeah,
living
I would not
fast.
leave until I lost everything I had.
So you wouldn't even win.
No.
More
I
often
mean,
than
I
not.
won. I mean, I was a lot at any given time, but I would not leave. I wouldn't leave.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was-
gambling is a powerful thing. I look at our community, and in the drug addict community, people do have cross addictions and things like that.
I'm
And-
sure.
Yeah. And it's not everyone, though. I mean, we play cards, and I remember, I think we're really, I don't even know if tangential would be the word, but we're really cautious to kind of start talking about, like, oh, is this a problem for us?
Of course.
And to kind of look at it. Because for me, I can fall into anything that disconnects me for a short amount of time.
Right.
Like video games, I'll just play for
Disassociating.
hours. Yeah, just
That
total,
was
no
it for me.
realities.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you
It's just a
start.
different form of it.
So you owe the IRS money because you won a ton of money at the casino that you were supposed to pay taxes on?
No, because I let my life fall apart. I didn't pay attention to what people were doing, and I got
Oh, you were too into gambling to worry about the taxes on your business side.
yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so tell me about the coming out of gambling. Tell me what that's looked like.
It's been enlightening. I'm not perfect,
Yeah.
as we all know.
Well, type A is asking for help might be a hard fucking thing to do.
Yeah, I like, for me, it took me a long time to realize I had an issue because intellectually it didn't make any sense to me. I thought, well, I should be like, there's nothing stopping me, just like I thought about drug addicts and everybody
Why don't
else.
you
Like,
just stop?
just use your freaking willpower and your brain power and your intellectual ability and say, this is not a good choice and I will be leaving now.
Right.
But I couldn't. And I just struggled with that for a really long time because it made no sense to me.
So you'd make the oath and then you'd be back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to several Gamblers Anonymous meetings and have several one-day chips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so was there a climax to your gambling problem, or are we working on it still? We're still working on drug addiction.
I would say definitely still working on it.
Okay.
Definitely. There are a lot of contributing factors mixed in with that, but it's something I think in a little while I will talk a lot more about.
And you'll be strong and confident in it.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about it, but I'm not completely prepared to do that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But I think it's a really big issue that I think people haven't addressed.
So if someone's out there struggling with gambling addiction or thinking that they might, what would you just really say to them to maybe help them out right now?
I would say go to a place where there are other people that understand that.
And talk to them.
Yeah,
Not the casino, though.
Yeah.
Not the casino.
Okay,
Even
good.
though, unfortunately, a lot of people there do understand it.
Right.
And I had several pit bosses walk me to the door because they knew.
They're just like,
They said, Kristin, let's just go.
holy
Yeah,
fuck,
it was bad.
Kristin.
Yeah, it was
That's
bad.
like a
That's
drug
like-
dealer
yeah,
walking you
yeah.
outside.
It was. That's what it
buddy,
felt
I
like.
can't sell to you today.
Yeah.
Let's take you to rehab.
Yeah, it was bad. It was truly. It's a. And from someone like me to have that somebody look at me like that was a low point.
Right. Well, and a humbling point. I think that for most of us, and even in our recovery, so the good thing about the people sitting in the room here, and then even Tara, was we seemingly got into recovery from what ailed us the most, really young, right? I mean, most of us didn't even hit our mid-20s. David, you got sober at what
Right
age?
at 30.
Right at 30. And I think Chad, 20.
20.
And then me, 24, and Tara, 18. And so for a lot of us, we are taking pride in ourselves. And we're like, wow, look at the conviction. There's no doubt in our minds that there is some power outside of our own control that's intervening in this amount of grace that's underlining all of our sobriety and this beautiful life that we have because we've merely evaded tragedy over and over.
Right.
But it is hard for us, even now, to look at when we are sliding into self-destructive behaviors.
Absolutely.
And so for you, waiting as long as you did to even hit a moment like that, I couldn't even imagine going through everything you went through as far as the losses you had talked about, raising these kids, finding another husband and working on these things and being an attorney and balancing. It's like you're fucking spinning 90 plates. And then to be able to have to admit, like, hey, guess what? This fucking plate over here is knocking all the other ones
yeah,
down.
so this spinning plate is out of control. I mean,
Yeah, it is new for you.
It's fallen and broken on the floor.
I feel like we have an advantage in the fact that we've fucked up enough plates that for us it's like, I've been here before. I have the ability to just completely tear my life down and light it on fire. So that's amazingly powerful to hear you at, what age was it? Like 40s, in your 40s, running into this problem that you had to
45.
reach out and start to get help for.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for sharing that. And my thought is just this. I'm sitting here and you're telling the story about the pit boss, and it's like that experience for me, I've had that exact experience, totally different outside circumstances, and the idea of a pit boss is someone totally different, right? But
Sure.
I've had that humbling experience, and it is so necessary. It is so necessary to have that experience in order to grow. So, like for me, I'm extremely grateful, and I am extremely, I'm going to use the word proud, but I don't want to, but I'm extremely proud to be a drug addict, right, who's in recovery, because that means I've had an experience that has propelled me to that next tier, to that next level, and I hope that maybe that happens for you. I hope that someday, because I know it's difficult to talk about being, addicted to gambling or being Gamblers Anonymous, and I can see it in your face when you're talking, but, I just hope and pray that you have that experience to where it's not, and it's something that you can say out loud, and it's not something that's difficult to talk about, because that moment is going to be so beautiful, because you have an experience that is going to help somebody else someday, that is going to be so absolutely beautiful, and I hope that you have that experience someday.
Well,
I think that's really for what it's worth. That's what I'm talking about. I think if my friend asked me, like, you said you had a, come to Jesus meeting with yourself. And I said, but yeah, I think I know what I want to do. And she's like, what is it? And it has a little bit to do with that. I think I'm going to get out there and share a lot of
Well, we're going to bring you on when you do.
And not only that, but also the wealth of experience you've had with everything you've talked about with being a stepmom and going through all this loss and going through all this like tragedy and traumatic experiences. You have all this ammunition that is going to be so helpful to somebody. It probably already has been extremely helpful to other people.
I hope so.
It has. You have done an immense amount sitting across from me today, having these conversations with Anthony and just being strong and convicted in your beliefs and your experience. And it has done a lot for me. And I'm just sitting here in complete awe and gratitude. And I thank you very, very much for everything that you've shared today. I really do.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. It was enlightening for me as well.
Good.
No, truly. Thank you.
That's what we're trying to do here. Human connection, man. Transparency. That's how it's my experience. My experience is rooted in transparency. Is when I'm transparent with something in my life that is negative, for whatever reason, it becomes positive and it becomes that ammunition.
It lightens the load.
As
soon as you put it out there, it's halfway floated away.
That's why I
already.
said I got pepperoni nipples, because it's like if
Right?
I just say I
Now
got
it's gone.
Then you won't.
I got pepperoni nipples.
They're gone.
No, they're still there.
The harder the trial.
The harder
the
the
payout,
the harder
baby.
the flick, the less seconds it takes to turn into a regular nipple. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
But to bring it all back, right, is like that transparency. It's like I have learned through trial and error that transparency is going to make me a stronger individual. It is going to make me a more positive, a more happier, and just love myself. Because that's the biggest thing when I believe, and when I'm dealing with any kind of like obsessive behaviors, is that I lack of love for myself. So I'm trying to find this love in other objects and things and people, right? So to come to that moment of looking at myself in the mirror and going, I fucking love you, dude. You're a good dude.
And mean it.
And mean it.
And mean it.
And being like, damn, you're looking good too. Keep dieting, keep working out, keep doing your thing, man. That's okay. You got pepperoni nipples and a hairy back. Who cares? Who cares? I got a colic of hair on the back of my calf. You guys can't see this,
That
but
is sexy.
look at that, dude.
Sexy.
Look at that. That's how hairy my legs are. There's a cowlick on my
I think I'd really
calf.
like that. Oh my god.
Fuck you, you're not my dad.
Oh my god.
Well, that's a good clip.
That was
Yeah.
a good one.
I had to play it before we ended here.
Yeah, we gotta
dad.
end it. Again, thank you so much. Big shouts out to just everyone in this room.
Yep.
Just big shouts out to you. Big shouts out again, like I said last week, to Steve Wren. If you haven't followed him yet on Instagram, the dude that was just an amazing individual to me as a child, get on there and follow him. Shoot him a DM and say thank you.
Shoot us a DM.
Shoot us a DM. Shouts out to us.
Follow us on Spotify.
And shouts out to all the moms out there doing it on Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mom's Day.
Okay, bye. Love you.